Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa Loza and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? We are back, and we want to welcome you back.
See, Rafa can't even talk right now. He was in Vegas starting it up, and now he's bringing that slurred speech back to this Big Break Show, right, Rafa?
Vegas embraces, man. I have my Invisalign on, so it's causing my speech impediment right now.
I think you should create a business called Vegas Embraces. Like, that would be one of the best businesses I've ever heard in my entire life, bro. You ready for that?
I don't even know what it would be about. What kind of business would it be?
I don't know, but I'm going to go buy that domain right now. Vegas Embraces.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great. So we're back with another episode of The Big Break Show, and we love you all for always listening to us and our nonsense. And today we have an awesome show for you guys. Actually, this was a really good conversation, really fun conversation. I know we probably say that about all of them, but this one was pretty cool because we went a lot about life, relationships, the corporate world, short-term rentals. We talk about mindset. We talk a ton about masterminds. We talk a ton about health. I mean, we went pretty much all around what this podcast is truly about. So I don't know, Jesse, what'd you think?
Yeah, today's conversation is, and I said this at the very end of the show, it's one of those it's almost like confirming of what we're doing is working. When you see other people that are doing these kinds of things, it's almost like we're talking to each other to constantly be like, yes, well, we're on track to what we're doing. And I think that's what I love about these shows. And for people that are new starting off, or for people that are, successful in businesses already for years, these conversations are sometimes conversations you might not have with your friends or your people, and for you to hang out with us and kind of listen to this conversation, I think it's important for us to, give that kind of, those conversations to you guys. So I just really enjoyed it, man. You're right. It covered every single important pillar of life, which is health, family, relationships, health. I mean, just health in general was a big topic. We talk about Starbucks, and for those people that are in that cult, so it's a good conversation, man. I really enjoyed it. I think folks will get some value from it for sure.
Starbucks cult. Yep. Without further ado, Mr. Fouad Bazzi. Hey guys, Rafa here. A lot of you guys have been asking me if I have a course, if I teach, if I mentor my short-term rental business, and the answer is I do actually. I just recently released my very first course. It has about 120 videos. If you're part of the monthly membership, we are adding 2 new videos a month in current issues or projects that I'm working on within the short-term rental business. And we do 1 monthly call live where you have access to me to ask me all the questions you want. So if you're interested in joining the course, or if you want any more info, click the link below. It is application only. We only open it to a certain amount of students every month because we want people who are serious, who really want to be a part of this, who actually want to take their short-term rental business and grow it, or are starting from scratch and want to learn how to actually acquire properties doing rental arbitrage. If that's you, if you're serious and you really want to do this, click the link below, schedule a call with me or my team, and we'll get you going. Now back to the show. Fouad, what's up, brother? Thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm excited to have you here and have a good conversation. How you doing today?
Rafa and Jesse, thanks for having me, fellas.
So before we get started, we always like the speakers and for them to introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers so that people know who you are. They get a little bit of feel of what you're about, and then give them an intro and go into your entire life story.
Yeah. So I'm all about doing awesome things with awesome people. I mean, that's bottom line. I love relationships. I love people. Every step of my career has been in the people business. So I grew up in the banking industry for 20 years. I was, kind of all around retail, treasury management, marketing. And then I got into our bank consulting side, our correspondent banking side. And I'm based in Detroit, Michigan, and I was going from here to California about 12 weeks out of the year. And so 2019, we had our third kid. That kind of got old, traveling and not being here with my kids. And so my wife was doing really well. She's an attorney. She's got her own office here in Dearborn, Michigan, suburb of Detroit. And so I knew I could leave corporate, go back to banking if I totally failed as an entrepreneur, and that would be fine. But here we are. We're 4 years later. For 2 years, I just got entrepreneurial. I started a coffee shop, had a kids play place inside of it, did some long-term rentals. COVID turned that left. I didn't like the long-term rental space. Selfishly, we needed a house in Huntington Beach that I could take my daughter to for a specific reason. She had a doctor that we'd have to visit periodically for 3 years. And so we needed one there. And so we said we could put on Airbnb we're not using it. So I went from 0 to 3. I got that one under contract, 2 in Scottsdale. The Huntington Beach one I did on my own, did joint ventures on those other 2 in Scottsdale. And then every other one since then I've used OPM. So I've got kind of maniacal about masterminding, building myself, building my education, just kind of pushing myself to be better every day, building relationships with people, and then learning as much as I can about all facets of real estate because of how diverse it is. And then I've built relationships with investors, and yeah.
There's a few good things that you brought up in there, and I want to touch on a couple points here. Before I do, because the Masterminds is one of the ones I want to talk about, because we kind of met like at an event. It wasn't a mastermind, but we met at an event. So you said something about how your entire thing's relationships, and I love that because my entire business, I tell people this all the time, my entire business is built on relationships, right? Like literally everything I've done is with relationships, partnerships, friendships, meeting new people, right? Using other people's money, growing the business, all that fun stuff. So everything that I know you're going to want to talk about in this episode. But before we get into that, what made you get into short-term rentals? Like, was it just because you needed that house there, or was there a specific reason aside from not liking long-term renters?
We've talked about it for years. So since we've had our first kid is 8 years old now. Since we've had him, we went to one hotel. He was a few months old, and it was like, oh, cool. He's asleep in the stroller, and it's like now he can have privacy. And it's like, oh shit! But if we whisper, or if we talk, he's gonna wake up. And so I was like, yeah, never again, right? So since then, domestically, we've only traveled using Airbnb. So what always floored me was we never found the perfect Airbnb. This house is amazing, but, right? Like it was always a yeah, but. And so I always just said, coming out of sales, coming out of marketing, coming out of just, relationship building, which we do with our guests. I knew that I was very intrigued by it. And so the more I learned about real estate, and I hated long-term rentals, I just didn't like that. I wasn't good at it, frankly, because I was just way too nice. I would never hold anybody to a contract. So I was, so I hated that. You get into the short-term rental space, so guess what? That goes away because I get paid before they show up. I get to price right so that I only get the clientele that I want. We don't, I've always said this, and I get bolstered for saying this. My goal is not 100% occupancy. I don't want 100% occupancy. If you got 100%, you're not charging enough, right? So I don't want that. My goal is to find that right optimal space of like 80%, 75, 80%. And we attract the right client by taking that strategy. So that's it. I love that. I love building strategies around people. I love building relationships with people. And I love having awesome homes. All of our homes are really luxurious. I love that. And there are places I would want to take my family and go hang out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when I first met you, you're super friendly and like very open. So I appreciate you, what you said, because getting into short-term rentals is hospitality, right? And a lot of people aren't friendly people. Like they just don't want to deal with people. So that kind of explains as to why you're very aligned with the hospitality side of things, because just the way you carry yourself and the way that you are. So I got a question based on what you just said too, though. What was it like, what did you do that made you want to open these properties for that, but that, this property is good, but?
I love this question. So the first one is coffee, man. And it drove me crazy because the investment's not a lot. Like, and you and I know that, right? Like, so I'd walk in, here's a K-cup machine or some sort of, coffee maker, but the coffee's not provided, or it's like the worst coffee that I'm like, why?
K-cups.
Like literally just, it would cost you $5 to provide me really, really good coffee for my whole stay. But you could probably boost your nightly rate by $5 and you're going to get that, I wouldn't know. For me, it would feel like free coffee, but you're not really paying for it. You've charged me for it. And so it was just the smallest thing. And coffee. So as a matter of fact, coffee is one of our 5 core values in our company because of that. And we do have a Keurig machine, but we also have a Jura E6 or $1,800 coffee machines that do espressos, lattes, cappuccinos, coffees, all that whole bean. So coffee is a really, really big deal for us, and that's really important. The reaction we get from our guests when they say, "Hey, we're checking in 3 days. Wanted to know, should I be ordering my own coffee?" Like, what? No, I don't. So I love that.
I got a question for you, man. Like you're talking about, this is going back to your original at the beginning of the show. Did you take the formal route of going to school, like getting a college education, all that stuff? Because you got Did you talk about your investment banking? Or I think we talked about that offline. Yeah. So can you kind of talk about that for a minute? Like, the education piece, like what you know now, because entrepreneurs, I feel like sometimes they're just like, I didn't need that back then, but it kind of gave you some sort of formality and some kind of, I'm assuming it did some of that for you. Can you talk on that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, so I was a finance major. I have my MBA. Very very broadly, adept in business, especially coming out of the banking industry and kind of being in the line of banking that we were in. So there's goods and bads, right? And I think the real simple answer is when we were growing up, the cost of education made sense. It really made sense. It reconciled with growing in the corporate ladder, rolling the dice on yourselves. Um, I don't know that same benefit is there today. I could tell you, kind of going back to, one of the things Rafa mentioned was masterminding. So, I always say this about my kids, 8, 7, and 4. I imagine myself telling my parents, "Hey, I'm not going to college." Like I'd have been disowned, right? And I think about my reaction if my kids, because their world is different than my world that I grew up in, they come and say, "Hey, I'm not going." Cool. There's other education sources, right? So I think what's really, really important is the depth, is really building the depth in what you want to do. I actually think there's a problem in our education system, and I think it doesn't build the depth. I think it's a very general thing. It's a very broad thing. But if I knew what I knew about finance back in the day, when I chosen finance, I definitely would have been in the business world. But when I had chosen finance, I don't know. I'm much more a people person than I am a number cruncher. And so I understand numbers and I love that. And I'm grateful for that. And I still have my people skills and all that still ended up working. But I didn't end up using the finance for my career, for my path, for my business, right? I was in sales at its core at the end of the day. So I could have done just as fine if I'd done psychology, whatever it might have been. So I think what's really important about masterminding, what I love about masterminding is that direct depth. So you can choose the right mastermind that builds your depth, right? Do you want one that's just isolated to short-term rentals, or do you want one that's hotels, or do you want one that's all real estate, or is it entrepreneurial, or is it faith-driven, or finance, whatever it might be, right? So
Yeah, so you believe that paying to get in those rooms is important because again, masterminds are not cheap. I mean, they're quite expensive if you're in a quality one. I have people that reach out to me all the time. They're just like, masterminds are expensive. I don't know how anybody does that. I'm just like, dude, like you pay to be around these kinds of people. Like if I was starting off to pay in a room to be around Rafa, who has 70, 80 doors, to just learn from him for a minute, like put a price tag on. It's like it's difficult to put a price tag on that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's a lot of thoughts behind that too, Jesse. Let me jump in on that really quick because it's the perspective, right? I just bought tickets. I'll give you guys an example. I bought tickets to the Tony Robbins event in Dallas, right? I've been wanting to go to this dude's events forever. The reason I bring it up is because they have 3 tiers levels of tickets. They have your budget tickets on top, right? You get the very top. They're I think like $700 or something. You got the VIP tickets that are like $1,500, and then you got the up close seats that are like $2,500. And the salesperson, she's like, "Hey, which tickets do you want?" And I was like, "Well, am I just paying to be in the very front just so I can be closer to this dude? What's the benefit of being in the ticket?" And she stops and she's like, "It's not that there's a benefit." She's like, every seat has its range. And I'm like, "I don't understand what you mean." So that was the end of the conversation, right? And I sat there thinking, and I'm like, okay, I don't know which ticket I want to buy. So I call a buddy of mine who's been to the Tony Robbins events. He's actually one of the gold platinum members or whatever. And he goes, "Look, dude," he's like, "buy the front seats." He's like, $2,500. He goes, "You pay to be to the crowd that you want to be with." And that instantly fixed it for me. I can be around the people that are in the very top who are the budget people. I can be in the VIP section, or I can be with the people that are willing to pay the $2,500 just to network with that caliber of people. As bad as it sounds, that's literally what it is. And so when you go to a mastermind event and you're paying $25K for the year, it's other people that are willing to pay the $25K of the year. It's that caliber of people that you want to be around to network with because they're successful in some sort of aspect of their life or business to be able to pay that anyway.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the first thing that you guys all have in common at that level there, right, is when you pay to be in the right rooms, you're not looking at it as an expense, you're looking at it as an ROI.
Yeah.
It's 100%. It's only an expense if you don't know what the hell you're doing with it. Bottom line. But if you do, if you know how to go in there and convert on the opportunity of being in the room with billionaires, there's an ROI attached to that, and so that's 100%.
I think too, there's a mindset that comes in with this. And I remember this very particularly as I was starting to come up, like, money's a weird subject. I grew up in a very Hispanic culture. So did Rafa. Our families didn't talk about money. I can guarantee Rafa's family didn't talk about money. And Rafa, if I'm wrong, tell me that. But I'm just putting you in the lump sum of the culture of Hispanics. It's just something we don't talk about. So to think about $2,500, and this is me even going back to when I was making like $100,000 a year, like that was a lot of money to me. Like I feel like I wouldn't spend that kind of thing. But something happened over time where I started to realize that money, what I thought was a lot of money, wasn't a lot of money. In true, like $1 million, like I could be like, it's not really that much money. To a lot of people, that could be a ton, but in reality, it's not. You're a finance guy, you know this already. Like you see money coming in and out, it flows like water. It's just what it is. And there's something that happens over time of learning that process, that money is, kind of like it's just a different way of looking at it. What we learned in the past isn't necessarily what we're looking for now. And I think once you start to kind of flip that mindset and you realize like, okay, this is going to be $2,500, and granted, it probably is going to be a lot of money. But if you have that mindset that I'm going to spend that $2,500, I'm going to go bring something to somebody, give somebody some kind of resource, some kind of, something that they might need, that they might even know they need. That's where the return on investment or return on energy comes back. You know what I mean? I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand when they're on that side of, when their mentality's on that side of the pendulum.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the people I speak to most now are all parts of masterminds that I'm in. And I think you hit it on the head. You got to know which ones you're getting in. Like we started one in Detroit 4 months ago, a friend of mine and I. It's called the Motor City Mastermind. And, we're not one of the most expensive. We're $3,000 for 12 months. And, our whole focus, and we're very transparent, we're very real about this. We are not the experts. I got guys in the room that are more advanced than me, that are more experienced than me, I want to help people go from W-2 to 1099. That's my goal. And and beyond, right? But I want to help as many of those people. So I'm the rookies mastermind, 100%. I know that. I'm very real about that. I've had somebody come in and I was like, you should probably go to the mastermind that I'm a member of. That's where you belong. You don't belong here. And so it is. It's important to align, and you evolve and you grow.
It's funny because talking about, just really quick before we change the subject on masterminds here, anybody can pay. Like people will put it on a credit card. You can put it on a credit card and join a mastermind. But like you said earlier, Fouad, if you go in without not knowing what you want out of it, it's a waste of money, right? You got to go in with the goal in mind. Any mastermind that I go into for an event or a meetup, I set a goal ahead of time. What do I want to get out of this 3-day event this time? What's my goal to be here? What problem do I need to be solved? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to bring up? What do I have to offer? If you come in just going, oh, I'm cool, this is cool, I'm going to show up and just kind of see what happens, you're not going to get anything out of it. You might pick up a good few conversations, meet a few good people, but otherwise, you're not going in with the intention. You got to set the intention of what you're going into that for, right? Talking about return on investment on it, right? For example, like I joined so I met my buddy, actually, Fouad, you know Alex Quezada. He was on the podcast in the past. And so we're in a mastermind together. And then I ended up Legacy. And so Legacy Family with Tim Bratz. So we're in that one together. It's a commercial mastermind, commercial real estate mastermind. And we ended up hitting it off. We became really good friends. Like we talk almost every day now. And so I ended up joining his mastermind. So he's got to create a finance mastermind, right? It was, I don't remember how much it cost. It was like $7,500 or something. So I was like, yeah, like I didn't even think about it. It wasn't even a second thought. I was like, dude, you have one? I'm in. And look what happened. He helped me seller finance, how to structure a deal for a 40-acre ranch that I just closed on, zero money out of pocket, right? Literally like a month ago. Return on investment, where's the $7,500? Think about that. I would never have gotten that deal, right? From being around the people. And so in order to be around those people, you got to pay the big bucks. Like if that doesn't explain the entire situation of a mastermind, I really don't know what will. You know what I mean?
Alex and I are a member of a mastermind together too, and he's every bit worth that 7,500, 100%. Just a great dude, just a fantastic dude.
Yep. Speaking of that mastermind cost, like, do you guys think it's a little absurd when it's like $75,000 for a mastermind or like $50,000? Like, what's your thoughts on like the high end? It's
all relevance, dude.
So I pay 50 for mastermind. I pay 50 for mine. I do, and I've raised over 800,000 in that room.
Yeah.
So I've got access to about 3-4 more million in that room. So 100% it's worth it.
Gotcha.
100%.
Rafa, remember when we got asked to go? I'm not going to say who it was or anything like that, but we got asked to go to this mastermind. It was like a $25,000 like 1-day event like closed room event. Remember, you and I were just like, this is when Rafa and I first met each other, and we're just like, man, that's crazy. Like this, I don't know who wants to pay that. But like now looking back at it, Rafa, like that time has gone, like, so, it's been a couple years already. Like that probably would have been a good one to go to.
Well,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
So here's the thing, though. It's all relevant to what you're going to do. I've been invited to a ton of different masterminds, and I've turned down a lot because I look at the value that I'm going to get behind it. I look at who's in the mastermind, who's the person that's going to be at that event, what conversation am I going to have, and if I see nothing that I can't add value to, or if I'm the only one adding value, or if it's just people that I'm not at that level yet, I might not want to do it. Right. And I don't remember who was going to be at that one or not anymore. It's been so long. But I've been like, dude, I got invited to that Tony Robbins one, the platinum one, right? That one cost, I think it's $97K or something like that. And just to go to one event's like 30 grand. And it's only 4 events a year, right? So you're spending like $250 a year on it. And I'm like, I'm not at that level yet. Will I join it? Probably somewhere down the line, right? Because the caliber of people that are going to be in that event, not only are going to be like super high level people, very mindset high level people, very wealthy people, who knows what will come out of it, right? But if you invite me to a one-day event and you tell me, hey, it's going to be 7 speakers and these are all the speakers, and I look at them and there's no value for me to give or value to get back, I'll probably say no. Right. So it's all relevance. The price can be anywhere from $100 to as high as $10,000.
And something you said, so important. It's not just about who's running the mastermind. It's about who's going to be in the room. I've been in one that was ran by a couple of really just some badass dudes. And the culture was not what I was looking for as a family man. Just kind of leave it there. Right. And so it's like the caliber of individual is amazing. Culture was not. So now that's something I'm really intense about is who's in it, who are my peers, not just who's running it, who are my peers.
Yeah, I agree to that. I just recently joined GoBundance the beginning of this year, and man, like my pod, like we have these people we got people that are crushing it, dude. Like people that you don't see on Instagram that are making millions of dollars, a year, like millions. And it's crazy to see like some of those people that are super successful are very quiet. They move quietly, but they move quietly in the sense of like, social media and stuff like that. But in groups like GoBundance, they're very adamant about speaking, talking, all these things, but they're just not social media type people. So I think that's one thing to look at too, like social media and influence right now. Like, dude, a lot of people can go on there and talk about random shit and make themselves seem like an expert. They can just say whatever Jay Shetty says or whatever Rafa says on something and become on paper, become an expert. I think that's something to think about too when you're going to these meetups and stuff like that, is like who you're paying attention to, the culture that you're around, what are these people doing? Because social media has made things, I feel like in a lot of ways, like easy and kind of like a fraud in a way, you know what I mean? But
100%.
It's just my perspective. It's good to be around people that are like, that are doing things and they have intentions and that are both living ethically and morally the way you'd want to be living. I think that's important too.
No doubt.
I don't the social media thing. Like, don't even get me started on that. That whole world is like 10% real, 90% bullshit, straight out.
I don't have a lot of followers. I've got like 2,700 followers, and I'll tell you, they're very engaged followers, which I love. So I'm not one of these 100,000 follower guys, but mine is very, very engaged. And I know almost I've gotten to know almost everybody that's following me. I still like to control it a little bit.
Yeah, it's all about your tribe and your crowd. Agreed.
What's crazy now is that if people buy followers, there's websites all over the place that can show you that people are like buying fake followers. Because you can buy 100,000 followers and look like a badass, but then have bots saying, "Awesome, congratulations, that's great," and you could spot that easy. So I feel like that's another grow organically. You know what I mean? Don't be going out buying followers,
dude. It's funny. I get people all the time. Hey, dude, let me work on you, and I'm like, no, dude. Stay away from it. Like it just makes you look weird. You're like, what are you doing? So
yeah.
So Fouad, let's go back prior to the mastermind conversation. I want to know, you touched something that you said something about your 5 core values for your short-term rentals. Do you mind going into that a little bit? I want nobody's ever really talked about that on a business aspect, and I think it would be great for you to kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it's funny when we first started. It was like hurry up and go. So we had things like privacy, exclusivity, luxury, guest experience, coffee. And it was like, and we still do those things, but those aren't really like our core values. It's not really. So I'll never forget it. I was in the ocean. I was in the Pacific Ocean over in Huntington Beach, and I was kind of walking by myself, feet in the water, and I got real deep in my thinking. And I thought, we've got to be more. That's not, so I really started thinking about me, and I'm thinking about these core values that I live on the business and then my personal core values. And I'm like, there's got to be more alignment there so that I can just really do what everybody says, which is, I don't work. I do what I want to do. So, I started thinking about how I live my life, and really it's very simple. 4 very basic core principles: health, peace, love, and travel. Right. And so like when I think about health, I think about mental health, which is obviously a very real thing in today's society, in today's world. Right. But also very controllable, much more controllable than I think doctors and big pharma would like you to think. And I think it's get off the food, because that's the biggest drug. It's not what we got in the streets, right? It starts with the food. It's how are you poisoning your body? How much respect do you have for yourself? Go to the gym, go work out, get mentally clearer. This is health. And when you start doing these things and become really, really comfortable in your own skin, and then, everybody wants to hide behind, well, it's not about health, is not about physique. It's like, hell yeah, it's about physique. Show me somebody who does it, who regrets looking good, so, and I got a long ways to go. So I'm not like I'm ripped or shredded. By the way, I got plenty of ways to go, but I know that's the direction, right? Like keep pushing myself 1% better every day on my health and health and fitness, that's a huge part of it. So health, peace. And what's peace? I'm not talking about world peace. I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about people loving people. We got too much hate going on in the world today. We got too many mad people slamming on their horn for no reason, and just things going, everybody's mad, right? Just like be at peace, and the health drives the peace. When you're truly at peace with yourself and you're healthy within, then it drives love. And when you lead with love and you live with love, that all becomes really easy. You're harmonious. And travel, and I mean this, it's not just corny. I mean, I know we're in the Airbnb space and the vacation markets, but go travel, go see the world. Like there's a whole world. Like I'm even against visas and green cards and passports. I mean, God put me on this earth. There should be no corner of this earth that I can't visit if I want to visit it, right? So go travel, go see people, go meet people, go see the world, how they live, what they eat, all the things that are gross to you that are not to them, but vice versa for them, from their perspectives. And you just got to go. So health, peace, love, and travel. And then we kept coffee because coffee.
Yeah, you know what? I always got to figure this out. I'm not a coffee drinker, and like I never understood the coffee thing. Like people are obsessed with coffee. Like, can you guys break that down for me? Because I don't drink coffee. Like, bro, what is it?
Okay, so first thing I'll tell you is from a health perspective. If you have coffee black, I have black coffee. That's the only way I drink it. Put a little cinnamon in it sometimes, but otherwise it's just black. There's no calories. And I got a principle for me on my health side is I will not drink my calories. If you're drinking your calories, that's the beginning of your issue. So that for me is number one. And so it's just something different to drink. It's still got water in it. It's got a lot of the health benefits, and it tastes good. If you go with a good coffee, I mean, what's good to me might not be good to you, and vice versa. We're going to have different taste buds. All coffee beans are roasted different. They come from different origins, but it's like a cigar. You smoke cigars? Do you like cigars?
Hell yeah, I do.
I don't.
Yeah. So it's the same thing though, right? Like, I mean, it's like you're going to pick and choose which leaf you like and which origin you like and all that. It's very similar.
Wait, do you guys inhale that stuff? Do you guys inhale cigars? Or you just put it in your mouth and blow it out?
Everybody inhales. Anybody that smokes inhales, bro. Anybody that doesn't.
That's not what Bill Clinton said, man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I was like, what did Bill Clinton say? I didn't inhale.
So, dude,
Yeah,
okay. It's funny because we have this argument all the time about coffee. Like, bro, I was just hanging out with a buddy of mine over the weekend, and he's like, hey, let's go get coffee. And I'm like, I'd rather wait because there's no good coffee around here. So there's a Starbucks on the corner. And I'm like, exactly. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, let's just find a good craft coffee shop somewhere.
I yelled at somebody yesterday for drinking Starbucks. I've toured one of their factories in Seattle. And, the trick with Starbucks is they actually double roast their bean. So what happens is, just like 2 petals of grass. If you pick 2 petals of grass and you look at them, they're the same shade of green, came from the same lawn, but they're just a little different, right? It's the same. Anything that grows from the earth is it's naturally imperfect. So good coffee, a good coffee shop is going to allow you to taste the origin of that bean. Well, what Starbucks says is we want consistency. We're just looking for volume of sales. We're all about profit. That's all, which is fine. By the way, it's not wrong. It's just a different business model. It's not for the coffee connoisseur because they roast their beans and they double roast it. And that creates a consistency across. So the flavor tastes the same at their coffee shop in Chicago as it does in Washington, D.C. And that's really not how coffee is supposed to work. And so I don't like Starbucks for that reason.
Yeah.
Can I say something about Starbucks though? What they did was almost like what Apple branded. If you guys go into any Apple store, you see that it's super clean. It's super minimalistic. And that's kind of the culture that they created. And I think that's where Starbucks did a really freaking exceptional job, where it's almost like it's like a little cult with like it really is if you think about it. And what is it? If you think about it, it's just a streamlined process of getting things done. It's a super simple, basic, but clean aesthetic. That's what brands them. Do they buy their real estate? I don't know if they do either. If they rent it out, they probably rent it.
No, I believe they rent it. Yeah, I don't believe they do. They're actually a bank. I mean, you know the story about their bank, right? Their Starbucks card. I mean, anybody that doesn't know that, go Google how Starbucks is a bank and blow your mind there.
Yeah, they actually, if you're corporate owned, you rent. If you're private owned, you buy. So it depends.
Well, McDonald's. Oh yeah, I guess you're right on that, because McDonald's is privately owned. Each one of them is privately owned. Yeah, you're right.
Well, McDonald's requirement is you have to buy the land also. So
yeah, yep.
Yeah. You know what the thing about coffee is? Like when I used to work in the corporate world, and we'll get over the subject real quick. I would go walk down a corporate hall and I would start talking to people. I'd be like, "Hey, it's good morning," and people would like literally get up and be like, "Don't talk to me. I haven't had my coffee yet." And I'm just like, if somebody has to have that ability to have this first before they can be nice to me, I think
but it's deeper than that. It's not about the coffee. So it's really not about the coffee. It's about the purpose, right? And that's what corporate does. Corporate creates robots. I say this tongue in cheek with a lot of gratitude, by the way. I say this with all the gratitude for all the things that corporate gave me, the foundations that it built me, the things that it taught me, the experiences it gave me, all those things. But for the most part, 85% of corporate employees turn into robots, and that's what it does. And that was really the itch that I started feeling. 2019, it was like, my kids were getting older, and it's like, I'm not going to ask if I want to go see my kids. I'm not going to ask to go pick up. Like, that's not a world to me that I have to ask somebody else if I can go pick up my kids from school. Like, I'll keep it PG, but F that. Yeah. Like, that's not happening in my life. And that was a huge part of it. And I'm all about being a dad. You'll see it all over my social media. You'll see it about anything that I am. My three best friends are 1, 2, and 3. They're all at school right now. And I pick them up from school almost every single day. And I love that. And I love being with my kids. And I'm addicted to them. And I can't get enough of them. So, tangent from corporate.
No, you're right, 100%. It's also the culture that's set up that way. People got to go into these like rough environments in a day, and they're getting ready as they get their nice cup of coffee in the morning to get them ready for it. So
yeah. You know what, dude? Yeah, and now that we're talking about this, I kind of want to dive into this for a moment. That corporate mindset. I just had somebody the other day that reached out to me on Instagram, and they're like, all you talk about is sales. People that are salespeople are bad people. They're this, they're that. You're just selling. You're pushing stuff that's not actually true. I remember sitting there thinking, when I worked at a corporate job, I was selling something that I didn't believe in. Like, I truly didn't believe in it. And the stigma of bad salesmen or bad saleswomen, whatever you want to call it, is because people are selling things they don't believe in. In fact, if I was talking to you or talking to Rafa, and I'm a B2B guy, and all of a sudden Rafa buys something of me and he hangs up the phone, I'm going to be like, yes, got him. That's that mentality right there, is the corporate culture of somebody selling something they don't like. But when I'm talking to somebody, or Rafa's talking to somebody, like, I truly feel I'm not selling anymore. I feel like whatever they're not getting from me is a disservice to them. Like, it's almost like I'm not. Do you guys get where I'm going with this? Like, I believe in what I have and going on, or the product or whatever it is valuable, that if you don't take it, it's like you're missing out on an opportunity.
It's what's so cool about watching Shark Tank, right? I mean, you're watching very disciplined billionaire investors that are saying, look, you got a cool business, you got a cool product, but doesn't align with mine. Lori, I'm basically a vegetarian, so I'm not going to invest in your meat product, but I wish you nothing but luck, right? So yeah, absolutely. Stay disciplined and stay in your lane. Build depth, not width.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. So, Rafa, you want to jump in kind of stay in the short term rental world? I know we're kind of all over the place right now, and I do,
No, this is a good conversation, man. We can go wherever we like it.
yeah, the corporate. I was going to ask you too, man, like because you have a college education and stuff, and it must be cool having a wife that's an attorney. I want to ask you a little bit about that, like what that's like. Like, was there any type of like competing with like salaries or anything? Did you ever feel like I'm not making as much as her or anything like that, or you just kind of like
No,
whatever?
we ebb and flow. I mean, look, she started her firm in 2012. And so from 2012 till 2019, we really relied on me. 2019 is when it became real. It took us 7 years of investing in that thing. And then her salary was way more than mine. It was like, okay, cool. Now we could shift. We've always looked at ours. My wife is my partner. She's not just my lady. She's not just my wife. I mean, we're doing life together. She's my everything, right? And so for us, we don't divide anything. Everything for us is here's our collective goals. Here's the goals for our household. I know sometimes I'm going to have to push you on your faith and your fitness. I know sometimes I'm going to push you on your finance and it's going to be flip. We're back to a point now. She bought out her two partners last year. And so we're at a point right now where we're back to reinvesting in her business. So we did really, really well on her business for 4 years. Now we're reinvesting and we're back to relying on me. So I think it's so important that couples know goals. Couples understand where are we going as a household, what do we need, and what are we doing, and it doesn't matter who's doing it, right? And just check egos at the door. That shit is all. That's why our divorce rates are as high as they are because, when what happened is we grew up in a world just kind of feeling you guys out. I'm still getting to know you guys, but our age wise, we grew up in a world where our moms were mostly at home and women were not yet as independent, right? And that's changed, but typically when something that big changes, not everything else doesn't just stay the same. Something else changes and gives. So your whole world changes and you have to recalibrate how you position everything. And so for us, we knew that we had to get really, really collective about our goals because I knew she did not want to be a stay-at-home mom. I knew how driven she was. And hell no, I'm not stopping her because she is my biggest competitor. Absolutely. I mean, we compete with each other all the time, but we push each other. We don't allow each other to slack from our goals. If she sees me getting off my goals, she puts me in check. And if I see her, just last week we talked about, hey, keep your eyes on the prize. We had a goal for the next 3 months. This is what you got to do. Get there. And so we're very, very, very transparent with each other about that stuff. We're partners.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to talk about too. If you're like, guys and gals out there that are starting to date, like really look at somebody and think like, I think those conversations are important. Like, what do you want for your life? What do you expect? What kind of goals and ambitions do you have? I think those are things that are really, really important. Look at family, friends, like what's going on in their lives. And I think a lot of times people don't have that. As you age, you kind of start to see that when you're younger, like your brain doesn't necessarily think like that. But I think it's important to have the same kind of goals and visions, and as you're growing, to really have those conversations that are deep and important, especially at the very beginning. You know what I mean? So that's cool, man. I was curious. I'm like, all right, his wife's kicking ass. Is that like a is that like a thing there where it's like I need to make more than her? But you guys balance each other out. She had time to build. You gave her that flexibility, and that must be a good feeling too, to know like, hey, I can like lose my job today or go try to do this, and I still have coverage, but then it'll come back. It'll reciprocate in a certain point.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's extremely important for me to be aligned, with my partner too, my girlfriend. We're not even married yet, and we already talk about our goals every year, right? We have our goal meetings. We go over what we want to accomplish, where we want to go, what we want to do, because otherwise everybody's going in 40 different directions. You got to be aligned, and just like you set goals for your business, for yourself, right? You got to set personal goals and you got to set relationship goals as well. I'm a big believer in that as well. So I love how you just the way that you said that. So let's talk about that for a second, actually, Fouad, if you don't mind. How does that process look for you guys? Do you guys set up like a date to go over you guys' goals? It's just a tabletop conversation, coffee conversation? Like, are you guys very adamant about it? Like, how does that look?
We've just over the last few months really started to calendar a little bit more together, but we don't. I would say that's probably pretty informal. I mean, we've been married for 13 years, 15 years now. And so, certainly not perfect and we got a long way to go, but we've got a pretty good handle on what we're doing. We've got a really, really good flow to where we are in life, and we've got a great cadence. We've got each other's back. We know that. We support the hell out of each other, and we don't let anybody or anything get between us. And so No, it's very informal. As a matter of fact, most of our conversations about this stuff is with our kids around us. I mean, that's really important to us. Is you know, here's something I learned when I was in corporate America. I was the king of work-life balance, and I talk about this a lot. I was a king of work-life balance. I was the hardest worker in the office. And I truly loved what I did. By the way, I had a great job. I was a bank consultant. I hung out with the C-suite of all the community banks from Michigan to California. I spent most of my time on golf courses and football stadiums with these guys. I mean, I had a really, really cool job around awesome people. Okay. So I wasn't, I left something because I wanted more control over my time and my life, and I wanted more family. I wasn't running from that. So I worked really, really hard, but I also understood we weren't brain surgeons and we weren't saving anybody's life. Anything that you needed after hours when I'm with my kids, it could almost always wait until tomorrow, right? And so I was very, very clear about my priorities. But I also learned once I left corporate that work-life balance was not really something that I really cared for or sought. It was purpose and ownership and control of my time is what I really sought. And that's why I wanted my home time to be my home time. Well, now that I'm there, now that I own all of my time and I do what I want when I want, and that's the beauty of real estate is I pick my projects and how much when am I at capacity? When do I have capacity? When do I take on growth? When do I attack operations? All that. And do I do it at night today? What I'm a maniac now about is work-life integration, not balance. And so we bring our kids right into our business. We talk to them about it. And again, they're 8, 7, and 4, but they've already got an LLC of their own that they started. They're into a bunch of things. They're addicted to Shark Tank, even my 4-year-old. So we have most of these conversations with them and around them.
I love that.
Do you actually, I mean, you kind of answered this because I hear this all the time, man. Like, do you believe in work-life balance? Do you believe there's an actual structure? Do you believe success has to have a balance?
I think you have to balance your happiness. And so if you don't own your time and you're not doing truly what you want to do, because look, I get it. Our society, the way we're structured economically, our go to school, come out, have debt, all that, the way we're structured, you do have to do what you have to do until you do what you want to do. Even though I control my time, I'm still in the do what I have to do phase, but I'm a little bit further along and I get to do what I get to chase my have to with my want to right now. I've reconciled that. But for a while, sometimes, I didn't have that option, and a lot of people don't have that option early on. So I think it's still important in the sense that you have to balance in the mental health, right? So yes, you have to make time for the gym. Yes, you have to make time to be happy. Yes, you have to make time to do things you love. I guess what I look back on, and the thing that I don't want to say I regret. I certainly don't regret it. But looking back, man, I wasted a lot of fucking time and a lot of money. And I made a lot of, I'm not going to call them poor decisions. I made a lot of young decisions.
Like what? Give us an example of what that young decision is.
Just lack of budgeting. So I was making pretty good money. I was the youngest branch manager that Comerica Bank has ever had. I was 21 years old. I had my own branch. Wasn't making millions of dollars. I was making about $65,000, and I was still a junior in college, right? So I could have taken that money. I could have started investing in homes then. I'm 41 now. I started 2 years ago. I could have started 20 years ago. I wasted a lot of time on the NFL. NFL took more Sundays than I admit to count. And I mean, it's funny, but man, if you ever dove into the numbers on that, yeah, I mean, you're literally talking about 10 a.m. pregame till 10 p.m. You're talking 12 hours for 16 Sundays for about 12 years.
I can't believe you did that.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time. And by the way, that's the NFL. Then there's college. Then there's the NBA. And that so again, I don't want to call it regret. I'm going to call it being young.
But did that bring you joy though? Was that joyful for you?
Hell yeah, it was. But you know what else would have brought me joy is starting my real estate investing early, or my investorship early, or entrepreneurship, or just going deeper on my learning that would have advanced all that. And I may not have known it then, but I'd know it now. Because people always say, it's funny, people always say money doesn't buy happiness. No, money doesn't buy happiness. Of course, there's more to it than money. But when you have money, it's a lot easier to go find what makes you happy. And that's the truth of it, right? That's the world we live in, whether we like it or not. And so, you always hear people that say, I wish I wish I had a little more. You never hear anybody say, I wish I had a little less. That's not something people say. And so, I think it's really important to balance all that. So coming back to your question, do I believe in work-life balance? I believe in integrating health into your ecosystem. Whatever's going to bring you that physical, that mental health. Yes, you need it. And I needed it in a different way when I was in corporate. And now I do it because my 8 and 7-year-old are talking to me about valuations that they saw on Shark Tank. I love that. I didn't know it when I was 8 and 7 years old. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, one thing too about health and like what it took for me, I let myself get to 220 pounds. Like Rafa, you remember Rafa messaged me, he's like, "You're getting fat, dude." And I was like, I got on the scale and I was like, "Fuck, I'm 220 pounds." Before, dude, when I was like super in shape, I used to relate making money to business. Like it was like almost one, it was connected. I couldn't do one without the other. And I'm back in that mindset again. Like those two things have to be super important. In fact, you brought it up earlier. I feel that food is one of the most important pieces of health. Exercise is great. We need it. But if you can't eat right, like, dude, everything else is kind of just whatever. And the older you get, you're 41, I'm 41 too. The older you get, the more you realize like how that affects your body. I go eat a cheeseburger, my ass jiggles for a week, and I feel like shit. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Well, and by the way, being 41 also means we're watching our parents age a little bit right now. And when you're watching your parents age, it hits home with you, and you start to realize, like, I got to take care of them. I got to be proactive here. We actually have a cheat system. So when our boys were 5 and 4, we had a big battle in our house. This was always, my wife was yes, and I was always no. And within 5 miles, you can get to both of our sets of parents, all of her siblings. My sister's about an hour and a half away, but we have family around us all the time. And it's, we're Lebanese. The Lebanese culture is very like, I love you if I give you a piece of sweet or a piece of candy. And if we see our family every single day, it's 5 pieces of candy, and 5 pieces of candy is 5 pieces of candy until 365 days a year. And then so she was always yes, and I was always no. And we were always butting heads. So when they were 5 and 4, the boys, it was 3 years ago, we made this 4 cheat system. So basically 4 times a week, I couldn't say no. And they could only have 4 cheats a week. This is it. So the first couple of weeks, it was like by Tuesday night, because they'd have 2 on Sunday, 1 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, and they're young. So by the time we'd get to the weekend, they'd have to wait a long time until Sunday came back so they could get more cheats. So the 3rd week, we had a birthday party. And we get to the birthday party, they have no cheats left. And my wife is cutting them a piece of cake. This is the first test. This is the first test of the system, right? We're about to either lose the system or we're going to support it. It's one of the two. And so my wife cuts the cake. And I was like, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm cutting them cake." I'm like, "They don't have any cheats left, though." And I'm telling you, their eyes are like this big, and they're looking at me like, "Oh, shit, he's serious." I'm like...
End of the world.
Yeah, I'm serious. No cheats. You don't have any cheats left. This is a learning moment, right? So she's panicking. She's yelling at me. Everybody, all the family's yelling at me. I'm like, hey, like what message are we really, really teaching them right now? Because I was the maniac. We live in a society where I was wrong for wanting my kids to be healthy, right? I'm wrong. And so the next day, my 5-year-old, I didn't let him have a piece of cake. Next day, my 5-year-old comes up to me and says, "Papa, I have a solution. I have a plan." I said, "What's your plan?" He said, "Every Sunday, I'm going to start asking you now, what do we have this week?" And I'm telling you, we're 3 years later, he has not missed a Sunday. What do we have this week? Birthday parties, holidays, events, what do we got? So these guys, it took him one day to learn how to budget. And he started figuring it out. And now they know, no, we got a birthday party Saturday. I'm saving that last one, right? And it's been great because it also taught them the honesty code. We don't even ask them. If they could, I pick them up from school. "Hey, I had a sucker. Somebody had a birthday party. I had a sucker at school today. I only have 3 cheats left." "Cool. Thanks for telling me." I don't even ask. They're totally honest. They hold themselves accountable. It's a very, very cool system.
That's awesome, dude. I've never heard of something like that. And I love the way you put it, because you've not only have you established discipline with it, you did the budgeting thing and then the honesty thing all in one. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we got really lucky with this. That's not what it was meant to do. We got lucky, but it all comes back to what you put in your body, and we teach them this. Every bite you take is controlled by you, so it's a form of self-respect, right? And so, and I gave them an example. I grabbed a bucket and I put it down. I said, "What is that?" They said, "It's a bucket." And I threw a bunch of garbage in it. I said, "What is it now?" They said, "It's a garbage can." So I said, okay, so I said, your body is a strong, strong machine. But what happens if I fill it up with garbage? I reconciled it for them, and they're like, oh, they're like, totally get it, So it's a really cool way to teach them, but it's also held us accountable to stay true to ourselves as well, because we have to lead from the front.
Yeah. You don't have a choice. I just got back from Vegas last night, and I've been super healthy for like the last like 2 months, like super clean. Dude, I've been working out every day, 6 a.m. without fail for like the last 2 months, right? Even when I'm traveling, I'm at the gym, right? And because I kind of promised myself that I would get back into it. And so we go to Vegas, and the weekend's my days off. So I work out Monday through Friday. And I got back. I didn't work out yesterday because we have to drive back. And dude, we ate we went to 3 like top of the line restaurants. We had like the deep dish pizza for lunch. Like we just ate like shit, and all the drinking we did, right? And this morning my alarm goes off at 6, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna do this today. I was like, I need a rest. I need to recover. And I swear, dude, I go with my neighbor. He's kind of my coach now because we do CrossFit together. And I type up my text message, and I'm like, hey, dude, I can't make it this morning. And I'm thinking to myself, like, should I just be honest with them that I can't wake up, or like come up with the bullshit excuse that I have a meeting or something, right? And I'm like, and then I sat there and I'm like, this is so stupid. I was like, I know I'm going to feel great after the workout. I already know it because I've never regretted a workout in my entire life. I need to sweat out all the crap that I ate and drank. Number 2, I'm already up anyway. It's going to be difficult as hell to go back to sleep. So I was like, and I'm sitting here coming up with an excuse to text this guy who's already expecting me to be there. I put my phone down. I got up, I brushed my teeth. I went to the gym. I had the best workout. I got out of there and I was like, man, I'm so glad I didn't miss it. But it goes back to the same thing, right? That discipline, the accountability, like everything together, right? Holding yourself accountable, being disciplined, knowing what you've already committed to. If this dude wasn't holding me accountable every day, it would have been easy for me to be like, yo, 6 a.m. I'm out. I'm not going to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping in.
Yeah.
But I know he's expecting me to meet him at 6.
Yeah, it's nuts to me, man, because, almost everybody, 99% of people I know, right, would take their shirt off and give it to somebody else if they needed it, right? We are so committed to everybody around us as human beings. We forget to commit to ourselves. And it drives me crazy. It's like, bro, the word selfish has actually derived this terrible meaning and definition that actually is false, right? It's okay to be selfish. You must be selfish. If you're not selfish, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to take care of you so that you can go make the impact and you can go take care of everybody around you? So it's actually, as a matter of fact, it's actually selfish to destroy your quality of living so that you can't play sports with your kids when you're 50. That's selfish to me. So I don't know. I just look at it a little different, and I wish it's a tall mountain to climb, but I really wish we could change the world when it came to that. I really do.
Yeah, man. I agree with you 100%. I think people don't take better care of themselves the way they should. Society.
Yeah. Well, it starts with education, man. You're teaching your kids, then your kids are going to teach their kids, and it's a whole thing. The American diet it's a legit thing. When I grew up, my family, not all the time, but we'd have like freaking Hot Pockets and shit, like the worst stuff to like eat. That was part of like growing up in the 90s, right? That's what it is. TV dinners, that was a huge thing. It's like you get used to that time.
Ramen noodles, come on, man. I mean, they were amazing.
Yeah. A little bit of a sriracha in there, man. Yeah, it's freaking amazing. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like that stuff's not natural. You know what I mean? It's like it's not a natural food. It's not something you want to put in your body. But you're educating your kids, and I think that's where it's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I was going to say, speaking of ramen noodles, I just saw right before we got on this interview, I saw a little video on Instagram how people are eating pills with cameras in them. So they're using them for science, right? And the experiment was noodles. There was a group of people, half of them got to eat cup of noodles and the other ate homemade noodles. 4 hours later, right, the homemade noodles are gone, and the guys with the cup of noodles, you can still see the actual noodles with the bite marks inside their stomach. It never dissolved 4 hours later. Like, that's crap. You think about that, that engraved it in my head right now, and it came up because like I don't want to put that shit in my body.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's two things. A, our parents, God bless them, they just didn't know any better. They didn't have access to the information that we have access to now. A, but B, also the quality of the food has gone downhill quite a bit. I mean,
100%.
The stuff we had in our house when we were young. I think the number is 19. There are 19 substances banned everywhere else except for here.
Yeah.
Like not allowed in and they're approved by the FDA, right? So either we know something nobody else knows, or go down that path, right? Because
Yep.
rabbit hole that. So
Well, we're in a capitalist society, and a lot of times those Monsantos give money to the government. I'm not going to go down that path right now, but there's a lot of that, man. There's a lot of that, and it's unfortunate, but you know better, and we know better. So I think that's something to educate and continue to do. Not only that, but you feel like shit when you eat like that. Like the problem is people get used to that feeling, and then they crave it, and they continue to go through it, and that's where
Yeah. It's that
eating
quick
different,
gratification
getting clean,
too.
cleansing your palate. Yeah, because I mean, dude, it does feel good to eat a bowl of a cup of noodles. Like, I mean, it does. But at the end of the day, like, you're done with that, dude. Your stomachs, you feel all crappy. Like, freaking, that's not good, bro. And that's the thing is like delayed gratification, right? Most people don't want to deal with that. They don't want to have that. They don't want any part of it. Especially in our society today, it's the opposite of that. Yeah, it's not conducive for your well-being.
Jesse knows now that he's being all clean and working out. I'm proud of you, buddy. So I don't want to change the conversation, but we're getting to the top of the hour, and I want to ask you a question that we ask all our guests here. Being that this is the Big Break Show, I want you to tell us, like, do you have a defining moment that was your big break that made you go from corporate to this, or from just regular to corporate? Anything specific that you want to talk about or mention?
well, that was always the plan for us going from corporate. I mean, that's 100% the mindset is you got to get yourself out of corporate. And I think what scares people in that thought process is, yeah, but I'm just not. I'm not ready. It's okay. It's all right. You don't have to put the pressure on yourself to say I'm leaving in 3 months. Put the pressure on yourself to say I'm leaving in 10 years. That's still better than 40 years. It's better than 30 years. So get yourself on a plan and start understanding how you can spend your time to getting there. I think for me, so for me, because it was always part of the plan, really the defining moment for me was when I began masterminding. And I had a conversation with Kent Clothier, who's my mentor. And, it's his boardroom mastermind that I'm a member of now that I spent so much money to be in, that's really become a huge part of my life. But, when he really hammered home the phrase to me, done is better than perfect, I'm an analyzer. I'm a nut job when it comes to analysis paralysis, really concerned, super, super afraid to make a mistake. Just like but I got to reconcile, but this, but that, right? Like done is better than perfect. Just fucking go, mess something up, figure it out, get better at it, learn, keep going, because you're not going to get to a position that you feel you're ready. You're always going to find something to improve. You're always going to find something wrong. So done is better than perfect. And the minute that I adopted that mindset and that philosophy into everything that I do in life, I move. I don't hesitate. Now it's still important to use logic. It's still important to underwrite. It's still important to question why I'm doing this with my family. It's still important to know and use your brain. Don't be reckless, but done is better than perfect. If you feel like you're 85% there, go and then figure out the rest, right?
Dude, why do I like IO pizza to you guys, or actually cauliflower pizza, since we eat clean over here, you guys. Have you ever had a cauliflower pizza? By the way, it's pretty damn good. I don't care what anybody says.
I'm actually invested in a company called Cauliflower Foods.
Really?
Nice.
Dude, I got cauliflower tortillas. Like, dude, that stuff's good, man. Like, I actually like it. It doesn't taste like tortilla, like actual tortillas, but damn, man. Cauliflower. You guys got me like wanting food now. Like, we're talking about cauliflower stuff. So, like, part of the episode too is what's an actionable step that somebody could take after listening to this episode? Like, what's a piece of advice that somebody could take from this episode and use in their life right now on a regular basis? A tangible lesson learned here. What would you say that would be?
Yeah, I really, really just urge everybody to go find your why. Go find your purpose, right? So for me, I've used the short-term rental method, but at its core, I'm a real estate investor. And what's important to me is controlling my time, owning my time, maximizing my life with my family, maximizing my health, my potential, all of that. And using real estate as a vehicle to create the wealth for my family. And then the short-term rental is what creates a cash flow for the short term, right? So that's my purpose. That's my why. And that's how I achieve those things. Don't just Don't watch me say, oh my God, that's so cool. He used other people's money and he scaled. And so I'm going to go do that. Or, Rafa's huge in the creative finance and that, and this guy does that. And Jesse midterm, go do you. Build your depth. If you try to find my purpose or somebody else's purpose, you're going to fall flat on your face. The only way you will drive at your highest miles per hour with your strongest horsepower, the only way you will go from point A to point B as fast and as hard as you can, relentlessly with will and desire and passion and want to, is if you are doing exactly what you set out to do. And so how does that look? How do you do that? You don't start by saying, well, what should I do tomorrow? And what should I do next? And what should I do next? No, start by saying, well, in 10 years, what does it look like? Okay. And then if I'm going to do that in 10 years, that means by like year 7, I better be living like this every single day. Which also means then by year 4, I better be doing this. And so in 2 years from now, I better be doing this. And then, so today I better start doing this. And you reverse engineer it that way. And by doing that, you will drive and you will get to exactly where you want to be.
Yeah. I love that. It's super common with a lot of people.
It's funny, Fouad, we resonate so much, man. A lot of stuff you've been saying, like I can relate to so much. It's crazy because my biggest thing is control of my time. I only take projects that I actually enjoy. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much money it'll make me. If I don't enjoy it, I won't do it. So a lot of the stuff that you said, like I align with you so much. So yeah, man. Last question. What's the best advice you've ever received? And it can't be the same thing you just said earlier.
Damn it. Oh, dang it.
Deep, not wide. And I've kind of referenced it a couple of times here. Go deep, not wide. I think we all have we're all visionaries. We all have a lot of great ideas. When I first got into the short-term rental space, I said I was going to have 8 different markets, 5 homes in each one. And I wasn't really thinking about the inefficiency of 8 different teams, 8 different supply stations, 8 different this, 8 different that. Building the depth of one market allows me to vertically integrate all my service companies right into my business and then have a sellable entity. If I don't sell it, that's fantastic. I'm going to be running something way bigger than I would have ever dreamed of. So I think something my mentor always drills in my head, and he tells me this is actually one of my things that I always have to kind of work on. Otherwise I get loose a little bit, is go deep and not wide.
I love that, man.
100%. Well, you said it all, man. You went from your W-2 job, making good cash, flying all over the world, going to football games, wasting Sundays, but now you hate Starbucks, and Starbucks does have a good brand, but you saw how their beans were done. You said it all, dude. I enjoyed this conversation. I think that
this was great.
I think we didn't. Let me see those guns, man. Let's see what's going on there. Lift that shirt up a little bit. Let's see what you got going on right there. So yeah, man, I really enjoyed this conversation. I like these kind of conversations because they weren't structured in a way that we thought about at the beginning, but it's real life conversations. And to me and to Rafa, it almost reaffirms what we're doing on a regular basis, by talking to people like you, because we need that constant kind of connection with people too, to be able to see what's going on. Not only that, but I think this conversation was fluid enough where somebody's new coming in can hear it and just be like, oh shit, okay, I get this. I get it. So yeah, dude, I appreciate you for being here, man.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This was really good. One of the good. We've had a ton of people on the podcast, and not to say none of them are bad. They've all been great conversations, but this was a really fun conversation to have. I appreciate you coming on, man. This was awesome.
Appreciate that. Thanks, man. Appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me. Hope you guys all find. Hope the if you're listening to this, I hope you found value. Reach out to me. I'm always glad to give my time and help somebody get started if you're looking for a path. Again, even if it's not short-term rental, my mastermind is very diverse in real estate. So I'm always glad to give 15 minutes of my time to somebody and say, hey, how can I help you get started?
Yeah, dude. And tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Hit me on Instagram. It's always the best way. It's my name. It's Fouad Bazzi, FOUADBAZZI _ Airbnb. Just look me up, link in bio, schedule some time. Always glad to connect.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, everything will be in the show notes. Appreciate you being here, bro.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me.